In this video, we're going to take a look at one of the database features of Excel. What we're going to take a look at is something called advanced filters. And everything we're looking at will be here on the data tab, since this is one of the database features of Excel. And we have looked at this filter button here before. This is called auto filtering. And if you click on that, you get these little buttons here with the options for, turning checkboxes on and off, and sorting, and doing some more sophisticated filtering. And you can actually do most of the filtering that you want to do using this simple auto filter. Just turn that on, make sure the cursor's in the data when you start, otherwise it doesn't know what you're talking about. And if you want to turn it off, just click on the button again, and the little buttons on the right side of each one of these column headings, each button goes away. So you can do probably 90% or even more of the filtering that you want to do by just doing an auto filter, and it's pretty straightforward. There are some things, however, that the auto filter cannot do. So if you're getting into some more complicated rules, the auto filter may not work, and when that happens, you need to go to the advanced filter, which is also in the sort and filter group here on the data tab. Okay. Now, before we look at the advanced filter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to free up some space here at the top of my spreadsheet. So I'm just going to drag the mouse through these numbers here, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say insert, and we insert 10 rows here, which is way more than I need. And the reason I need this is because in order to do an advanced filter, you have to specify the rule. How do you tell Excel which rows you want to see and which ones you don't want to see? And that goes in a place on your spreadsheet called the criteria range. So I'm going to copy my headings here. Select your headings here in row 11. Do a Control C, and let's try that again. Do a Control C, and let's go up here and do a Control V and paste in the column headings. Okay. And you need one column heading up here for each column in your table down here, and technically that's not true. If you're not filtering on a column, you don't really need to put it up here, but in general you just probably want to put all of them up here. And it's good to copy the column headings from here and paste them up here because they need to match exactly. So you don't want to type them in. If you make a mistake typing one of these and the column headings up here don't match the column headings down here, then your filter is not going to work. And probably a better reason is that if somebody was typing in the original column headings down here and they put a space on the end, I've seen this happen before. If you put a space on the end and then you go up here and you type it and you don't put a space on the end, which is, spaces are kind of hard to see. So if you don't put a space on the end, then this column name and this column name are not the same. And when you try to do filtering on the first name column, it's not going to work. So the smart thing to do is take the existing column headings, copy them to the clipboard, paste them into your criteria range at the top, and then you're good to go. Okay. So let's look at some simple filtering here. This is basically the way it works. You put the values that you want if you're testing for equality. So let's say I want business administration majors. Well, their abbreviation is BUAD. So if I type BUAD, what I'm telling Excel is when you look in the major columns, look for the word BUAD, and if that word is there, then I want you to select that record and show it to me, and if it's not there, I don't want to see it. Okay? So everything down here is my database, and everything up here is my criteria range. Okay? So before you start doing this, your life will be a little bit easier if you just put the cursor in your database before you start. And then turn on the advanced filter, and as soon as I click on the button here, you'll see why you want to have the cursor in the database before you start. As soon as I click on advanced, it goes as far as it can in all four directions until it runs into some empty space, and then it draws a dancing line around everything, and it just selects all of the data that surrounds my cursor. And here it says A11 to F34, and I'm sorry, 54, and that's what I want. Okay, now if I hadn't started off with the cursor in here, it wouldn't have figured that out, and I'd have to go drag the mouse over it, and I think it's just a whole lot easier to do this way. So that's my list range. And then for the criteria range, it could be this, and if I select cells that don't have anything in them, you're basically saying I don't care what's in those cells. So I'm really saying the only thing I care about is there BUAD in the major column, and I don't care what first name or last name or advisor credits or ID number is. And let's click on OK, and what it does is it applies the filter to the data down here, and it's a lot like the auto filter, this little funnel button up here, in that it turns the numbers blue over here on the side so that I know that I have a filter applied to them, and usually you're going to see some numbers here that some gaps. So those are two visual clues that you get telling you that you're not really seeing all of the data that's in the database. Okay, so that gives us the business majors. That's pretty straightforward. Let's go back up here to the data tab and let's click on clear, and let's try another rule. At Briarcliff, we have business and accounting majors are basically considered to be in the same department. So I'm going to add accounting down here. You cannot go up here and put ACCT in the same cell. Excel's not smart enough to figure that out. If you do that, it's going to look for a cell that has BUAD space ACCT in it, and there's not a single cell that has that in it. So let me undo that typing and go back to what we had before. So the way Excel interprets this is like this. Anything on the first row of my criteria range, it looks to see if there's a match. So if there's BUAD in the major column, it will select that record. But if it's not there, and there's another row in my criteria range, then it'll look to see if there's an accounting value in the major field, and if it is, it'll select that record as well. And then it keeps going until it runs out of rows, and I'm only going to give it 2 rows in my criteria range here. So let's go ahead and try that rule. Let's put the cursor in the data again to make our life a little bit easier. When we click on advanced, and it has selected the record for us. And my criteria range, I'm going to click on the little arrow over here, and I'm going to select, and since I don't care what the other ones are, I don't really need to select them. So I'm going to do this a little different this time. I'm just going to select these 3 cells. And I'm going to click on the little button and click on OK. And if I look at my data now, I'm getting accounting and business majors, and so this is what Excel did. It looked in the major column, and my first rule was, is it a business major? And if it was, it selected the row and went on to the next row. If it was not, then it checked to see if the accounting was in the major column. If it was, it selected the row. If not, it went on to the next rule. Well, there is no next rule because I only selected the first 3 rows here. And so then it'll go on to the next row down here and apply these 2 rules, go to the next row, apply these 2 rules. And I end up with all the business and accounting majors. And just like with the auto filter down here in the lower left, it tells me exactly how many records there are that were selected. Okay, let's clear that one. And let's try one more here. Let's try HRM. Human Resource Management. And let's go down here and click any place in my data. Let's click on Advanced. And last time I clicked on the arrow. This time I'm just going to drag the mouse over the criteria range to delete it. And then I'm going to select those 4 cells there and click on OK. And now everything turns blue. And I get BUAD, accounting, and HRM. And down here it tells me there are 21 of 43 records selected. Okay. One thing you need to be careful of, let's do a clear here, and let's try another advanced filter. Click on the advanced button, and then that's fine. So let's go to the criteria range, and let's go here and select those. And if you're not paying attention, you accidentally get an extra row in there. That's not a good thing. Let's go ahead and click on the button over here on the right side. Click on OK, and down here it says 43 of 43 records found. So it didn't really do any filtering, and here's why. First it checks to see if it's BUAD. So, and let's go down. Let's say we've already selected this one and this one and this one. Let's go down to this one, biology. It checks to see if it's BUAD, and it's not. Checks to see if it's ACCT, and it's not. Checks to see if it's HRM, and it's not. And then because I selected an extra cell down here, it checks to see if we don't care, and we don't. So it will pick the record, and basically if you ever have an empty row in there in your criteria range, it basically wipes out any filtering that you might have, because you're saying I don't care, pick the record no matter what's in it, and you're not doing any filtering at all. So just make careful you don't accidentally select an extra row when you're selecting your criteria range. So that's how equality works if you're testing for equality. And in the next video we'll take a look at testing for inequalities, which is actually quite a bit more interesting.